The Venerable Master said, "Tao manifests both as the pure and the turbid, both as movement and stillness. Heaven is pure, earth is turbid. Heaven moves, earth is still. The masculine is pure, the feminine is turbid. The masculine is active, the feminine is passive. Manifesting from its radical essence, Tao flows forth even to the last of things, bringing forth heaven and earth and all that is in between. The pure is the cause of the turbid and movement of stillness."
Taoism is not a religion in the ordinary sense of the term. It is not a so-called religion. It is authentically religious. But to be authentically religious, it has to be basically scientific. Science and religion are separate only as far as their direction is concerned, but not in their approach. Religion can be scientific without being a science. Science can be religious without being a religion. Tao is scientific without being a science. Science means trying to know the objective world without any prejudice, without any a priori conclusions. The same is true about the inner world, the subjective world. One should approach it also without any conclusions. A scientist cannot be a Hindu or a Mohammedan or a Christian. If he is, then he is not scientific. At least in his scientific endeavor, he should put aside all his prejudices. If Galileo remains a Christian, then he cannot discover the truth that the sun does not move around the earth. If Copernicus remains a Christian even while he is doing his scientific research, then he cannot go beyond the Bible. And the Bible is 2000 years old. It contains the science of those days. It is very primitive. It is bound to be so. All religious scriptures contain certain facts which they should not contain. They are not religious facts. They are concerned with the objective world. But in old days, everything was compiled in religious scriptures. They were the only scriptures. Religious scriptures have functioned in the world for thousands of years as encyclopedias. Everything that was known was discovered, was theorized, was collected in them. The Vedas in India are called Sanhitas. Sanhita means a compilation, a collection. Their function was exactly that of Encyclopedia Britannica. All kinds of things are compiled in them. The literature of those days, the science of those days, the astronomy of those days, the geography, the history, the art, everything that was possibly known has been compiled. As man has progressed, everything has become more and more specialized. Science means the search of truth in the objective world. Religion means the search of truth in the subjective world. Just as there is a world outside you, there is a world inside you too. And of course, the inside world is far more significant because it is your inside. It is your very being. It is your subjectivity. But about the inner world, we are still very unscientific. We still live through beliefs. About the outside world, we have become a little more mature. We are ready to drop any belief. If a certain fact is discovered which goes against our older theories, we discard the older theories in favor of the new discovery. But the same is not true about the inner. About the inner, we have very deep clinging. Tao is, in that way, a scientific approach about the inner. You can call it the science of the subjective, the science of being. This is one of the most significant things to remember while we will be meditating over these sutras of Kosuan. The second thing to remember is that Tao is the first revelation, realization of the fact that existence is polar. No other religion has been so clear about this tremendously significant fact. Existence is polar means existence is not logical, it is dialectical. It is not Aristotelian, it is Hegelian. Logic is simple. Logic is linear. Dialectics is a little more complex. It is not simple. Because dialectics is possible only if the opposite is also involved in it. If the opposite is not there, there will be no dialectics. There can be no electricity without two poles, the positive and the negative. Electricity is not logical. It is utterly illogical. It is dialectical. There can be no humanity without the masculine energy and the feminine energy. Just think of a humanity consisting only of men or women. It will die. It will not be able to live. It will not have any energy to live. Energy is created by the friction with the opposite. The Hegelian formulation is thesis needs antithesis. Unless there is thesis opposed by antithesis, there is no dynamism. Life becomes stagnant. Matter is possible only if there is consciousness, and vice versa. The sky and the earth, God and existence, the day and night, summer and winter, birth and death, these are polarities opposed to each other. But the opposition is only apparent. Deep down they are complementaries. What Hegel discovered just 300 years before, Taoists had discovered almost 5,000 years before. They were the pioneers of dialectics. They were the first dialecticians of the world. They contributed one of the most important insights into existence. You will find it everywhere. Life cannot exist even for a single moment without its opposite. Because it depends on the opposite, the opposition is only apparent. Deep down they are complementaries. They have to be. They depend on each other. Man is not man without a woman. The woman is not woman without a man. They depend on each other. That's why there is something missing in a homosexual or a lesbian relationship. There is no dialectics. The homosexual relationship is far more logical, remember. And because it is logical, it is simple. Because it is logical, there is less complexity about it, less conflict in it. It is not accidental that the homosexuals are called gay people. They are gay. They are happier than the heterosexual people, because there is no conflict. A man can understand another man more easily than he can ever understand a woman. A woman can understand another woman very easily than she will be ever able to understand a man. Because man is a totally different existence. Their ways differ. Their thinkings differ. They function from different centers. To each other they look absurd. The man functions through the intellect. The woman functions through intuition. The man goes through reasoning about everything. The woman simply jumps on the conclusion without going through any reasoning. The man is simply amazed. He cannot find any clue. He may have lived with the woman his whole life. Still, the woman remains a mystery. And the same is true for the woman. The man remains a mystery. She cannot understand simple things which she can see clearly. That is, smoking can bring cancer. Why you go on smoking? Drinking alcohol will kill you sooner. Then why you are poisoning yourself? Mullah Nasruddin's wife was telling him, when he was drinking whiskey one night, she told him, I have told you 1,001 times. Stop all this nonsense. This is slow poisoning. This is slow suicide. Nasruddin looked at her and said, please don't exaggerate. You have not told me 1,001 times. Maybe a few dozen times, but don't exaggerate. Moreover, I am not in any hurry. So let it be slow poisoning. I am not in a hurry to die. The man and the woman are constantly arguing about each and everything. They never agree about anything. They cannot agree. By their very natures, agreement is not possible. There is always tension. Hence, gay people are really gay. When you see two homosexuals hand in hand going for a morning walk, you can see the joy. You never see that joy between a husband and wife. Impossible. The gay relationship is simple. But because it is simple, because there is no tension in it, no conflict in it, there is no growth either. There is no pain in it. Hence, it is stagnant. There are no more surprises in it. The woman remains always to be discovered for the man, and vice versa. You cannot exhaust discovering a man or a woman. If you belong to the opposite pole, it is an endless discovery. You will never come to a conclusion. Existence is not logical, and it is good. Otherwise, there would have been only death, no life. If God was Aristotelian, there would have been no life at all. There would have been peace all over. Nobody to know it, nobody to experience it. It is good that God is Hegelian, that He has created polarities. Tao talks about yin and yang. That's its most fundamental approach to understand existence. And you have to go deep into it. There is great attraction between man and woman for the simple reason because they are mysterious to each other. The same thing creates conflict, and the same thing creates attraction. The farther away they are, greater the distance between them, more is the attraction between them. In modern societies, in advanced countries particularly, the attraction is disappearing for the simple reason that man and woman are coming so close to each other. They are becoming almost similar. They dress alike. They both have started smoking. They both drink. They both behave in the same way. They both use the same language. The liberation movement has contributed much to this nonsense. The women's liberation movement is teaching women all over the world to be just like men, strong, rough, aggressive. They can be aggressive and they can be rough, but they will lose something immensely valuable. They will lose their feminineness. And the moment they become just like men, there will not be any more mysteries. This is something new happening in the world. It has never happened before. The wise sages of the ancient days always made it clear to the old societies, make man and woman as distinct as possible. Nature makes them distinct, but culture also should help them to be distinct. That does not mean that they are not equal. They are equal, but they are different. They are unique. Equality need not mean similarity. Equality should not be misunderstood for similarity. Similarity is not equality. And if women start becoming like men, they will never be equal to men, remember. The women's liberation movement is going to do some very deep harm to women's cause in the world. And this will be the harm. They will become carbon copies of man. They will have a secondary kind of existence. They will not be real men because they cannot be naturally so aggressive. They can pretend, they can cultivate aggression, they can be rough, but that will be just a facade. Deep down, they will remain soft. And that will create a split in their being. That will create a schizophrenia in their being. They will suffer from a dual personality. And they will lose their mysteriousness. They will argue with men with the same logic. But they will be like men. And they will become ugly. To be unnatural is to be ugly. To be natural is to be beautiful. I would like them to be equal to man. But the idea of similarity should be dropped. In fact, they should become as dissimilar as possible. They should keep their uniqueness intact. They should become more and more feminine. Then the mystery deepens. And that is the way of existence, the way of Tao. Only one modern psychologist, Carl Gustav Jung, had some insight about this. Taoistic approach. He was the only one in the West who had pondered over and studied Taoism deeply. And he introduced Taoism in his psychology. And he brought Taoism up to date. If you want to understand Taoism, it will be good to understand Carl Gustav Jung and his understanding about Taoism. He was moving on the right lines. But after his death, that work has stopped. He had taken only few steps Because Taoism is a vast ocean. He had moved in the right direction, but the work has stopped. It has to be deepened. Many more people have to work to make the insight modern, because the language is old. And sometimes the old language becomes a barrier. For example, reading these sutras, many women here will feel a little offended. But Koswan means no offense. He is simply using an old way. What he can do, that was the way in those days. There is no evaluation in it. He is not saying that masculine is higher and the feminine is lower. That has to be remembered constantly. Otherwise, you will immediately become closed. Particularly, women will become close to the sutras. They will not be able to understand. And those women who have been unfortunately associated with women's liberation movement, they will immediately become closed. They will not be able to understand the beauty of the sutras. So for them particularly, I have to remind it that biological masculinity and femininity are not meant, but psychological. A man is not of necessity masculine. A woman is not of necessity feminine. A woman can be masculine. For example, Joan of Arc, or in India, Lakshmi Bai. These women were warriors, great soldiers. They were not feminine at all. Biologically, of course, they were feminine. The body was of the woman, but their very soul was that of man. They have to be counted as masculine. And there have been men, poets, dancers, musicians, singers, painters, who were very feminine, so soft, so round was their being, that physiologically they are men. They may be able to reproduce children. They may be able to become fathers and husbands. But deep down, they are not masculine. Their psychology can only be called feminine. It happens. In fact, it happens more often than you will ever think. Secondly, every man and every woman is also its opposite. Every man, to be alive, carries in the unconscious the feminine principle. Otherwise, there will be no dynamism in his being. There will be no tension, enough tension to keep him alive. he will simply die. There will be no reason for him to live. A certain tension is needed in his being. If the tension becomes too much, he goes mad. If the tension becomes too less, he will be dead. There is a beautiful story in Buddha's life. A great prince became initiated, became a sannyasi of Buddha. He had lived in great luxury his whole life. He was a great sitarist. His name was known all over the country as a great musician. But he became impressed by Buddha's inner music. Maybe his insight into music has helped him to understand Buddha. When Buddha was visiting his capital, he heard him for the first time, fell in love at first sight, renounced his kingdom. Even Buddha wanted him not to do such a great act so impulsively. He told him, wait, think, I will be here for 4 months, because the whole rainy season, Buddha never used to move. In the rainy season, he will remain in one place. So I am going to be here, there is no hurry. You think over it. 4 months' time, and then you can take sannyas, you can become an initiate. But the young man said, the decision has happened. There is nothing more to think about it. It is now or never. And who knows about tomorrow? And you have been always saying, live in the present. So why you are telling me to wait for 4 months? I may die. You may die. Something may happen. Who knows about the future? I don't want to wait even a single day. His insistence was such that Buddha had to concede. He was initiated. Buddha was a little uncertain about him, whether he will be able to live this life of a beggar. Buddha had known this by his own experience. He himself was a great prince once. He knew what it is to be in luxury, what it is to live in comfort, and what it is to be a beggar on the street. It is a great, arduous phenomenon. But Buddha had taken time. It took him 6 years to become enlightened. And slowly, he became accustomed of being without shelter, sometimes without food, without friends, enemies all over, for no reason at all, because he was not hurting anybody. But people are so stupid. They live in such lies that whenever they see a man of truth, they are wounded on their own account. They feel hurt, insulted. Buddha knew the whole thing is going to be too much for this young man. He felt sorry for him, but he initiated him. And he was surprised, and all other sannyasins were surprised, because the man simply moved to the other extreme. All Buddhist monks used to eat only once a day. That new monk, the ex-prince, started eating only once in 2 days. All Buddhist monks used to sleep under trees. He will sleep under the open sky. Monks used to walk on the roads. He will walk not on the roads, but always on the sides where there were thorns, stones. He was a beautiful man. Within months, his body became black. He was very healthy. He became ill. He became lean and thin. His feet became wounded. Many sannyasins came to Buddha and said, something has to be done. That man has gone to the opposite extreme. He is torturing himself. He has become self-destructive. Buddha went to him one night and asked him, Sron was his name. Can I ask you a question? He said, of course, my lord, you can ask any question. I am your disciple. I am here to answer whatsoever you want to know about me. Buddha said, I have heard that when you were a prince, you were a great musician. You used to play on sitar. He said, yes, but that is finished. I have completely forgotten about it. But it is true. I used to play on sitar. That was my hobby, my only hobby. I used to practice at least 8 hours per day. And I had become famous all over the country for that. Buddha said, I have to ask one question. If the strings of your sitar are too tight, what will happen? He said, what will happen? It is simple. You cannot play upon it. They will be broken. Buddha said, another question. If they are too loose, what will happen? Sron said, that too is simple. If they are too loose, no music will be produced out of them because there will be no tension. Buddha said, you are an intelligent person. I need not say anything more to you. Remember, life is also a musical instrument. It needs a certain tension, but only a certain tension. Less than that, and your life is too loose. And there is no music. If the tension is too much, you start breaking down. You start going mad. Remember it. First, you have lived a very loose life and you missed the inner music. Now, you are living a very tight, uptight life. You are still missing the music. Is not there a way to adjust the strings of the sitar in such a way that they are exactly in the middle, neither loose nor tight, just the right amount of tension so that music can arise? He said, yes, there is a way. Buddha said, that is what my teaching is. Be exactly in the middle, between the two polarities. Tension has not to disappear completely, otherwise you will be dead. Tension has not to become too much, otherwise you will go mad. And that's what has happened in the whole world. The East has become too loose. Hence there is death, starvation. And the West has become too tight. Hence there is madness, neurosis. The West is breaking down under its own weight. The East has become so lazy and lousy out of its looseness. A certain tension is needed. But there is a state of tension which is also a state of equilibrium. And that is the whole art of Tao. The equilibrating pulse of the mystical life, the secret. These words in this sutra are not to be understood biologically, physiologically. Each man and each woman also have its opposite within them. If you are a man consciously, then unconsciously there is a woman in you. If you are a woman, then there is a man unconsciously in you. Your conscious and your unconscious are polar opposites, and there is a tension between the two. That tension has to become neither too loose nor too tight. This is the whole art of religion, or the whole science of religion. Tao does not believe in miracles. It believes in scientific methods to transform your life. Lao Tzu, Chuang Tzu, and Li Tzu were walking together along a forest path one day when they came upon a fast-flowing river which barred their way. Immediately, Li Tzu sat down on the bank of the river and meditated upon the eternal Tao. 10 minutes later, he stood up and proceeded to walk on the water to the other side. Next, Chuang Tzu sat in the lotus posture for 20 minutes, whereupon he stood up and also walked across the river. Lao Tzu, watching this in amazement, shrugged his shoulders, sat down on the river bank like the others, and meditated for over an hour. Finally, with complete trust in the Tao, He closed his eyes, took one step into the river, and fell in. On the other shore, Chuang Tzu laughed, turned to Li Tzu and said, "Should we tell him where the rocks are?" Tao does not believe in any nonsense. It is very pragmatic, practical, down to earth. A street vendor was trying to sell his product. All day long, he would call out, "Try a bottle of my elixir, long life lotion." There was a boy helping him distribute the bottles and taking the money. The vendor kept calling out, "Look, long life lotion. A wonder, gentlemen, a real miracle. Every morning I drink one bottle and look at me. Don't I look young? I am more than 700 years old." The people were amazed and skeptical. Finally, one of the customers called the boy aside and asked, "Is your boss really over 700 years old?" "I can't guarantee it," answered the boy. Everyone turned to the boy to hear his answer. "Why can't you guarantee?" asked the customer. "Because I have only worked with him for 300 years, answered the boy. All other religions are much more concerned with such stupidities, miracles, wonders, not Tao. Tao is very straight. Hence, there is great future for Tao. When all other religions will be gone down the drain, Tao will still be around. For the simple reason, because it will fit with the scientific climate that is growing every day on the earth. It will not only fit with the scientific climate, it will help and nourish it. It will bring new visions to science. Because it does not ask you to believe in anything. It simply wants you to understand. These sutras are not to be believed in. Please try to understand them. And try to understand them putting aside all your prejudices as men and women. The Venerable Master said, Tao manifests both as the pure and the turbid, both as movement and stillness. Don't be offended by the word turbid. It simply means muddy, not clear, vague. Both are manifestations of Tao. Tao manifests both as the pure, and the word pure does not mean anything moral, virtuous, etc. It has nothing to do with morality. Pure simply means clear, transparent. And turbid means muddy, not clear, vague. These both are Tao's manifestation. The ordinary man is turbid. The Buddha is pure. The man who is sleepy is muddy, cloudy. He is surrounded by much smoke of his own creation. The man who has awakened out of all dreams and desires has a clarity. He has no smoke around himself, no clouds. He is like a sunny day. The sun is there without any clouds. Tao manifests both. And remember, both are Tao. Never forget it. The asleep person is as much divine as the awakened one, as much godly as the awakened one. There is no intrinsic difference. The difference is only in manifestation. One is full of dreams, desires, hence one is turbid. And one is finished with the dreams, has become tired with the dreams, has come to know that they are dreams, and in that very knowing those dreams have dropped on their own accord. Now his eyes are clear. He can see through and through. Tao manifests both as movement and stillness. So there is no need to insist that you should be still. Even in movement, you can experience Tao. You can experience Tao in stillness. There are two possibilities. Buddha sat for years in silence, and then he experienced Tao. He calls it nirvana. That is his name for Tao. And Jalaluddin Rumi danced for years. And then one day it happened while he was dancing. Through dance, he attained to Tao. He calls it God. That is his name for Tao. One can approach either through stillness or through movement. It is because of this fact that in my commune, both kinds of meditations are being used. People are dancing, people are singing, and meditating. People are sitting in silence, zazen, vipassana, and meditating. And one can move from one to another because both are your possibilities. You can find it in dance and you can find it in silence, stillness. In fact, your experience will be far more richer if you can find it in both the ways. If you are capable in finding it in dancing and also capable in finding it while sitting silently doing nothing, your experience will be far more richer than the experience of Gautam the Buddha and Jalaluddin Rumi both. Naturally, because you will enter the temple of God from two opposite extremes, from two different paths. You will be more fluid, and you will have known the beauties of both the paths. Because on one path you may come across few things, and on the other path you may come across few other things. Both the paths are full of different wonders. The dancer will come to know few things which the person who is sitting silently will never know. He will reach to the ultimate peak, but he will not know few things that happen on the way of dancing. And the same is true about the dancer. He will not know few things which happen only on the way of stillness. My emphasis is that why miss any enrichment that is possible to you? Why not be multidimensional? Why not experience God through as many ways as possible? So that you know all the aspects of God. And in that very knowing, you will know all the religions are unnecessarily arguing against each other. Their arguments are absolutely meaningless. They are talking about the same God, but because they have known different aspects, they are insisting on their own aspect that this is the truth, and the other is saying that just the opposite is the truth. If you ask a Buddhist that can one become enlightened through dancing, he'll immediately say no, and his no will be categorical. He will say it is impossible, because if one can know through dancing, why Buddha sat for years? Was he a fool? He would have danced. If you ask a whirling dervish, the follower of Jalaluddin Rumi, can one find God just by sitting silently, doing nothing? He will say no, impossible. Absolutely no. Otherwise, why Jalaluddin should have danced? Why should he have worked so hard, dancing day in, day out? When the ultimate flowering happened, he had danced 36 hours continuously, just as Buddha had sat for 7 days continuously, not moving, not even moving his eyelids. Jalaluddin had danced, not even waiting for a single moment, resting for a single moment. A mad dance for 36 hours till he fell down on the ground. But when he opened his eyes, the old man has disappeared. The new was born. The new was already there. He was a totally new person. The Sufi will not agree that just by sitting you can find it. But I say to you, I have found him by both the ways. I have found him through movement, and I have found him through stillness. And I perfectly agree with Kosuan that Tao manifests both as movement and stillness. Heaven is pure, earth is turbid. Obviously, heaven means absolute clarity. The sky is pure. There is nothing in it. Nothingness is the purest thing. The earth is full of many things, hence it is turbid. And just the other day I was telling you, you have to be both earthly and unearthly. Because in fact, you are made of both. Something in you is contributed by the earth, by the turbid, and something in you is contributed by the sky, by the pure, by the clear. You are a synthesis of the earth and the sky. Up to now, except Tao, all the religions have chosen. Either they have chosen to be very earthly. For example, Judaism is very earthly. Or Jainism, which is very unearthly. Jainism has chosen the sky component of your being, and Judaism has chosen the earthly component of your being. But both are half. They are not whole. Something is missing in both. Tao is whole. And in my understanding, in my realization, Tao is the only experience which is holy because it is whole. Heaven is pure, earth is turbid. That's why I say to you, be a Zorba, but not Zorba the Greek, because then you are just turbid, just earth, just muddy. I say to you, be Zorba the Buddha, not Gautam the Buddha, because to be Gautam the Buddha means you are just sky, no earth, absolutely otherworldly, belonging to the farther source. Why not be both? When it is possible to be both, why miss anything? Why not use all the opportunities to grow and to be? Heaven moves, earth is still. These are just metaphors. The masculine is pure. Masculine means at the lowest intellectuality, at the highest intelligence. It is clear. Intellect is clear. 2 plus 2 is 4. It is as clear as that. And the highest form is intelligence. Buddha means one who has attained to the highest form of intelligence. His words are very clear. His words are not at all in any way muddy. You cannot find more clear statements than Buddha's. His statements are not mystic, not esoteric. In fact, he used to say to his disciples, please don't ask any metaphysical questions to me, because they are not needed. They are not going to help. Ask authentic, real questions. Questions that are your problems in life, so that I can help you to solve them. He used to say this story again and again, that once a man was hit by an arrow. He was a philosopher, a great metaphysician. People rushed to him. They wanted to take out the arrow, but he said, wait, first tell me whether the arrow is real or illusory. Now, that has been one of the most important metaphysical questions in India particularly, whether the world is real or illusory, real or Maya, whether it is or it only appears so. The metaphysician was asking, out of his old habits, if it is unreal, why bother? If it only appears, what is the point of taking it out? It does not exist. It is like a snake which does not exist. It is only a rope really, but in darkness you have misunderstood it as a snake. So there is no need to kill it. How can you kill a snake which does not exist in the first place? He made people so puzzled by all his metaphysical reasoning that they were at a loss what to do. It was difficult to prove. In fact, it is difficult to prove. Nobody has been able to prove conclusively that the world exists. There is no way to prove it. It may be all illusory. For example, I am talking to you. But how can you prove that you are not dreaming? Many times you dream. Asang writes to me, Bhagwan, I am very grateful. You come in my dreams. Now it will be difficult for Asang, whether right now it is a dream or I am really here. There is no way to decide. In Western philosophy, the man who represents this ideology is Berkeley. He says the whole world is in your idea. It is just an idea. It is in your mind. It does not exist really. It is just like a dream phenomenon. It is made of the same stuff as dreams are made of. He was going for a morning walk with his friend, Dr. Johnson. And Dr. Johnson was a very realistic type of person. When Berkeley told him that this whole world is just an idea, it does not really exist, Johnson got so mad mad because he could not prove otherwise. He simply took a big rock and threw it on Berkeley's feet. Berkeley shrieked in pain. He screamed. Blood started oozing out of his feet. And Johnson said, "No, what do you say?" And Berkeley laughed and he said, "This is all just an idea. My screaming, you're throwing the rock. Even you, Dr. Johnson, are just my idea. I am your idea. You are my idea. We are all ideas. Your rock cannot prove that it is real. Because sometimes I have screamed in my dream. Sometimes rocks have been thrown at me in my dream. Blood has come out in my dreams. So what? What is the difference? It is impossible to disprove such a philosophy. Sankara in India represents such kind of philosophy, and Berkeley represents in the West. They both remain yet unrefuted. Nobody believes in them. I don't think that even they believed in themselves. Otherwise, they would have stopped eating, making love, sleeping. Because if it is all dream stuff, why bother? Berkeley continued to make love and produce children. What nonsense. He continued to eat, and when he used to fall ill, he will take medicine. Now, killing one idea by another idea. I don't think they ever believed in themselves. Sankara says that the world is illusory, yet he says renounce it. If it is illusory, why renounce it? What you can renounce? If it is not there in the first place, how can you renounce it? Something that is not can be renounced. And if the world is not, if the seen is not, then where is the seer? Without the seen, the seer becomes itself illusory. If there is nothing to renounce, the renouncer becomes illusory itself. They don't believe in their own philosophies, but still they cannot be refuted. There is no way to refute them. Thousands of ways have been tried, but nothing can refute them. For example, Berkeley used to say, when you go out of the room, your furniture in the room, your books in the room all disappear because there is nobody to project the idea. Obviously, if you take the projector out, the film will disappear from the walls. There will be no pictures on the walls. Now, how you can prove it? You can say that I can look through the keyhole. He will say, so you have come back through the keyhole. Again, they will appear because the idea is projected through the keyhole. One man worked for years to find out some way, and he went on coming to Berkeley again and again. One day he went with the idea that no, I don't think you can deny this. When you are sitting in a car, you don't see the wheels of the car, but the car is moving. The wheels are there. You are not projecting because you are not seeing them. But the car is moving. The movement of the car proves that the wheels are there. Berkeley said, you don't know. That is God's idea. The world is not only my idea. Ultimately, it is God's idea. It is God's dream. In fact, He is dreaming us too. The driver and the passenger and the car and the wheels. It is impossible to deny such philosophies. They are absurd, but they cannot be refuted. Buddha used to say, people, poor people, villagers gathered and they looked at each other, what to do with this man? Buddha was passing by. He heard the whole story. He went to the philosopher and said, these questions can be answered later on. We can discuss later on at ease. First, let us pull out the arrow, because this arrow can kill you. And if you are alive, we can discuss it later on. And whatsoever you decide later on, whether the arrow is real or unreal, it is up to you. But right now, you don't need philosophical discussion. You need a physician who can pull the arrow, who can take out the poison, who can give you some medicine as a protection. Right now, no metaphysics is going to help you. Okay, if it is unreal, let it be unreal. But later on, we can discuss it. Buddha used to say that the same is the situation of man. Every man, you are suffering. So the whole thing is how to pull out the arrow that is creating your suffering. It is not a metaphysical question. His words are very clear, rational, intelligent, comprehensible by the mind. He says only things which can be comprehended by any intelligent person. That's why Buddha has become very important today, because his approach seems to be so intellectual. The masculine is pure. That means the lowest form is intellect, intellectuality, and the highest form is intelligence. The feminine is turbid. Turbid here will mean lowest instinct and the highest intuition. Now the mystics, the Sufis, talk in a totally different way. Their words are not so clear. Their words are vague. Their words are not comprehensible easily. You have to figure out what exactly is their meaning. And that is the state of the feminine mind. But remember, I don't mean biologically. Of course, biologically also, the woman functions more through instinct than through intellect. Many people ask me, why all the Buddhas you talk about have been men? Why not women? for the simple reason that the approach of the feminine mind will be totally different. They cannot be Buddhas. They can be Miras, Magdalenes, Lallas, Rabias, but they cannot be Buddhas. Their approach is bound to be different. Mira will not talk in an intellectual way. She will sing. Her singing, her dancing has a totally different flavor. She will not argue. Argument is not the way of the feminine mind. Her argument will be her dance, her ecstatic dance. If you can see her dance, if you can feel her dance, I will not say if you can understand her dance, because dances cannot be understood, they can only be felt. They can only be experienced. Her words will be very instinctive. For example, Freud has condemned very much all the women mystics he knew about. He never knew about Mira, otherwise he would have condemned her the most. He knew about Saint Teresa. He has condemned her because she talks about being married to Christ. Now that is enough for Freud to bring his whole sexual theory in. That's enough. Nothing more is needed. Marriage, that means this woman is suffering from some sexual perversion. She must have repressed her sexuality. And because she cannot have a sexual relationship with a real man, now she is contemplating about an unreal man. Somebody called Christ in the sky, the Son of God. Now she is trying to make a love affair with Christ. It is really a misfortune that Freud never knew about Mira. Had he known, he would have danced himself out of joy. Because Mira uses such allegories that, my Lord, my beloved, when you will be coming, I have prepared the bed. I have prepared the bed with roses, and I am waiting. And the night is passing and you have not come yet. And I am crying and weeping for you. When you will come and make love to me? No, she is not even referring in an indirect way. She is talking directly. Freud would have taken the whole thing literally. That was his technique. He can prove that all these mystics are perverts. In fact, he himself is a pervert. Because he cannot understand the feminine mind at all. That was one of the reasons why Jung has to desert him. For the simple reason that his whole understanding was simply intellectual. There was nothing intuitive in it. And Jung has a more feminine mind, a deeper capacity to feel. All men who have come in contact with women know it, that they function in a very different way. You cannot talk with a woman logically. It is impossible. As if she belongs to some other world, to some other planet. And the same must be the experience of women. They can't understand men continuously in their heads, in their intellects, never understanding anything of the heart. Man tries to argue, tries to convince the woman logically, but she cannot be convinced. That is not her way. Logic makes no appeal to her. Slowly, the husband learns that far more important than logic is a rose flower. If you bring a rose flower to your wife, she will understand it more than all your arguments. You can argue for months that I love you, and that won't convince her. Just bring a rose flower, and that will be enough. Her approach is instinctive. Man cannot understand her because whatsoever she says seems illogical and absurd. Slowly, husbands start remaining silent. They become deaf. They allow the woman to talk, whatsoever nonsense she wants to talk, let her talk. Who listens? Do you know why God created first the man and then the woman? To allow the poor guy to say at least 2 words. Overheard at Vrindavan, one sannyasin was saying to another sannyasin, it took a lot of willpower, but I finally gave up trying to diet. A lot of willpower. Rat told me I was the 8th wonder of the world, said Searle. What did you say? Asked Pearl. Not to let me catch him with any of the other 7. Can you operate a typewriter? Asked the boss to the secretary. Yes, sir. I use the biblical system. I never heard of it. Seek and ye shall find, replies the secretary. Why husbands become hand-pegged? All husbands become hand-pegged. In fact, to be a husband means to be a hand-pegged husband. There are no other kinds. For the simple reason that how long to argue? And it makes no sense. You look foolish to yourself. You are talking to the walls. You argue and the woman cries. You tell her to cool down and let us talk and sit over the table, and she starts throwing things. She slams the door, she breaks cups and saucers. Now, what is the point? You cannot argue. There is no possible way to connect, to relate with a woman coolly. That is not possible. It is always hot. Either you follow her or she will create trouble. And from her side, your all arguments are just nonsense. Then there was the guy so handpegged by his wife that when they were in the nudist colony, she told him what not to wear. The man says to the liar, I am going to ask for a divorce. Why? Asked the liar, because my wife is always knitting. But for God's sake, that is no reason to ask for a divorce. Lots of women knit while they are making love. The husband frequently traveled in his work. One day he returned home unexpectedly and found his wife in bed with another man. Enraged, he grabbed a gun and pointed it at the man. The wife screamed, Don't shoot! Are you going to kill the father of your sons? The young lady walks into a drugstore and asks, Do you have intimate deodorants? Yes, we do, answers the druggist. Which kind would you like? Chlorophyll. No, sorry, we will receive it tomorrow. Tomorrow I cannot come. Could you give it to my husband? How am I going to know who your husband is? Inquires the druggist. It is very simple. He is a tall, dark-haired guy with a green mustache. The masculine is active. The feminine is passive. Manifesting from its radical essence, Tao flows forth even to the last of things, bringing forth heaven and earth and all that is in between. The pure is the cause of the turbid and movement of stillness. But don't forget, because of these anecdotes, that Kosuan does not exactly mean that the biological masculine and feminine are synonymous with the ultimate masculine and feminine. In a certain way, yes, they are related, but not totally synonymous. This is feminine. Now she is saying all this Tao is nonsense. This is just a protest. Enough for today.
Osho, Tao, the Golden Gate, Volume 1. Talks on Coast One's The Classic of Purity, given at the Osho Commune International, Pune, India. Discourse number 6.
The first question. Bhagwan, please explain, how can I meditate over something without using my mind? Dinesh, meditation has nothing to do with mind. Meditation simply means a state of no mind. The functioning of the mind is the only disturbance in meditation. If you are trying to achieve meditation through mind, you are bound to fail, doomed to fail. You are trying to achieve the impossible. A Zen initiate was meditating for years. And whenever he will come to his master, whatsoever experience he will bring to the master will simply reject it. That it is all nonsense. You go back